Welcome back to the Football Game Tonight podcast. I'm your host, John Kuzmo. We have a very special Super Bowl recap edition of the FGT show. We're going to recap the Chiefs' huge win over the 49ers in the Super Bowl. And I think it all starts with Patrick Mahomes and his ability to block out the noise. You know, Patrick Mahomes' dad actually got a DUI this week. That easily could have been a distraction for Patrick Mahomes. And Patrick Mahomes has all these people around him that are struggling. You know, his brother Jackson Mahomes got into some trouble, but Patrick Mahomes continues to block out the noise. He wasn't going to let his dad's mistake impact him going into this game. He wasn't going to let that prevent him from being his peak form in the Super Bowl, which is what the Chiefs needed to beat the 49ers in that game. So Patrick Mahomes, you know, not just in this Super Bowl, you know, all the stuff he had to deal with Jackson Mahomes too, he never lets it creep into his mind. He never lets it distract him from, you know, keeping his eye on the prize and focusing on what's most important for him, which is winning on the field. And I think we have to applaud Patrick Mahomes for that, because he could have easily let his dad's mistake, you know, distract him heading into the Super Bowl. And if that would have been the case, even just a little bit, the 49ers win that game, because the 49ers came into that Super Bowl locked in and ready to go. We know how physically tough they were in the first half. We know how tough they were on a lot of those short down and distance situations. It was tough for the Chiefs to convert in those short, you know, down and distance situations, just because the 49ers were so physical up front with Javon Hargrave, Nick Bosa, Chase Young, and the rest of those guys. So Patrick Mahomes being able to overcome that defensive front that the 49ers had, not only block out the noise, the stuff he was dealing with, you know, outside of football, which are happening to the people he loves the most. I mean, it's just, you can't say enough good things about Patrick Mahomes. Almost reminds you a little bit of Michael Jordan. You know, Michael Jordan, nothing ever distracted Michael Jordan. The only thing that mattered to Michael Jordan was winning. You could say Tom Brady was the same way. Patrick Mahomes is cut from the same cloth as those guys. So it's really impressive what he's been able to do. Now, I don't see it changing anytime soon. He's got 3 Super Bowls. He's playing at such a high level, and once again, he's back on top, back-to-back Super Bowl champion. You know, he won 2 in a row now. The Chiefs there's no doubt about it, they're a dynasty, and it all starts with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. So you begin to ask yourself, is Mahomes the only one that can catch Tom Brady? Well, he's got 3 Super Bowls. And I seen a tweet online that said, you know, Patrick Mahomes is like 28 years old. This isn't going to last much longer. And I'm thinking to myself, really? You don't think this is going to last much longer? Because Tom Brady played until he was 45 years old. If Patrick Mahomes is 28 years old, and I don't know actually how old he is. It was just a tweet I was, you know, seeing online. I don't know if he's 28 years old. He could be 29, could be 27. I'm assuming he's 28 years old, and, you know, the tweet was accurate. But if he's only 28 years old and you think this is going to end sometime soon, you're out of your mind. Tom Brady played until he's 45 years old. So we have a long time ahead of us when it comes to Patrick Mahomes' career. He's going to be playing into his 40s too. I guarantee it, as long as there isn't some serious injury. You look at Troy Aikman, he had to deal with those concussions. You know, thankfully, I don't think Patrick Mahomes has been dealing with those same issues. I don't think he's been dinged that much when it comes to concussions. So, you know, maybe if he has like a Joe Theismann injury where he blows his leg out, you know, knock on wood, let's hope that doesn't happen. The last thing I want to see is Patrick Mahomes have his career cut short due to injuries. But if that's not the case, I got him playing into his 40s. And if he's 28 now, he's got a long, long road ahead of him. And if he's already got 3 Super Bowls, the future is very bright for Patrick Mahomes. And there's a good chance he will catch Tom Brady. I mean, the only person that I believe really can is Patrick Mahomes. There's nobody else that's winning Super Bowls like this right now. And because Patrick Mahomes got off to such a great start, he's the guy that we're going to see come close to Tom Brady. And the fact that they both have that laser focus, the I will not be denied attitude that helps them get over the hump in these crucial situations, you can see why Patrick Mahomes is the guy closing in on Tom Brady, because he does have that it factor. He won't be denied, and he only cares about winning football games, which was obvious in how close that game was last night, because the 49ers could have easily took that game. Patrick Mahomes said, "Nuh-uh, not on my watch. We're going to get this one too." Another big storyline from this game is the Chiefs get the best of the 49ers again. Remember, this is the second time that these two teams faced off in the Super Bowl. And the Chiefs once again get the best of the 49ers. And I can make a strong case that this was the 49ers' better opportunity out of these two Super Bowls, because the 49ers were just so physically dominant. You know, in that first half, they were so physically dominant. You look at how good they were on that defensive front. Patrick Mahomes didn't have much time to operate in the pocket, and he was under pressure a lot. And it just creates problems for the offense because you can't run the ball as well. Now you're picking up 2 or 3 yards per run. You want to be picking up 7, 8, 9 yards per run where you're just gashing the defense. And there just wasn't a lot of daylight there for Isaiah Pacheco, because the 49ers defense was so good. But the Chiefs come out on top again just because they're just such a well-run organization on both sides of the ball, and they execute so well, and they're more disciplined. You know, you get late into the game and the Chiefs just keep executing when they had to. And even though the 49ers played such a solid game, the Chiefs are just a little bit better as a whole. You know, when you zoom out and look at the big picture, the Chiefs as a whole are a better team, which is why they're a dynasty, and the 49ers keep getting to the Super Bowl, but they keep coming up short. So you can see why the Chiefs are just a little bit better. One guy who was basically an unsung hero in this game was Mecole Hardman. It was Mecole Hardman to the rescue. And what I mean by that is one of the biggest hurdles for the Chiefs this season was their wide receivers. They weren't good enough. And then you look at what happened to Kadarius Toney. He was a healthy scratch in this game. Apparently, he was voicing his frustrations with the Chiefs. I think he was on Instagram, was unhappy, said they were lying about his injuries, and they basically made him a healthy scratch in the Super Bowl. Well, the Chiefs actually got better because of that, because getting rid of Kadarius Toney and keeping him on the sidelines actually meant that the Chiefs brought Mecole Hardman into his role. And what do you know? The Chiefs were actually better with Mecole Hardman in that role opposed to Kadarius Toney. Remember, Kadarius Toney had like I think it was a punt return, or maybe it was a kick return last year in the Super Bowl. I'm pretty sure it was a punt return that kind of set the Chiefs up to win that Super Bowl against the Eagles. Well, in this Super Bowl, you know, Mecole Hardman actually had, I would say, a bigger impact than Kadarius Toney had last year, because Mecole Hardman caught the game-winning touchdown. He had another huge deep pass that he caught early on in the game, but I think like a play later, Isaiah Pacheco fumbled. The Chiefs coughed the ball up, so that drive stalled out. But that was a huge play by Mecole Hardman, stretching the field vertically. He makes the catch, gets the Chiefs in scoring range. The Chiefs just weren't able to capitalize on that opportunity, but that was a nice catch by Mecole Hardman. So, you know, you take those two plays there, the deep bomb he caught, the game winner, he had a huge impact in this game. He had another catch too that he was able to reel in. So I thought Mecole Hardman was, you know, the unsung hero in this game. I thought he had a huge impact. I thought he stepped up, and for a guy that wasn't even on the team, he was on the Jets, in the beginning of the season, for him to come back to the Chiefs and really step up, and not only step up when it mattered the most for that team, for the Chiefs to bring him back when he wasn't getting any opportunities with the Jets, for the Chiefs to bring him home back to the team that he started his career with, and for him to answer the call in the Super Bowl when it mattered the most. You have to give Mecole Hardman his props, because he was making plays in this game, and I don't think Kadarius Toney would have made those plays. I don't think Kadarius Toney would have answered the call like that. I don't think he would have stepped up. Maybe you would have gave them one big play, but Mecole Hardman caught the game winner. He caught the game winner. He had that bomb down the field. I mean, he was a big factor in this football game, and you couldn't be happier for the guy, because he came back, and he delivered for the Chiefs. He delivered the goods for the Chiefs. They came to his rescue when things weren't going well with the Jets, and then Mecole Hardman returned the favor by stepping up for the Chiefs when they needed it the most. So Mecole Hardman, all the praise in the world for what he was able to do in that game. And, I mean, he earned his stripes in that game. The Chiefs, give him a pat on the back, and he's a true Chief because he stepped up when they needed it. Travis Kelce bumps into Andy Reid. Remember, people were outraged because Travis Kelce bumped into Andy Reid in this game and kind of screamed at him. But there's more to the story than people realize. Everybody was pissed off at Travis Kelce, but there's actually more to the story. When the Chiefs lost to the Raiders, Andy Reid bumped into Travis Kelce, and he challenged Travis Kelce to be better in that loss to the Raiders. So Travis Kelce basically challenged Andy Reid to be better in the Super Bowl when he bumped him back. But it was actually Andy Reid that bumped into Travis Kelce first in that Raiders game. And Andy Reid was saying, you got to be better, Travis. You got to get your head screwed back on. We need to count on you, because what happened is Travis Kelce threw his helmet on the sideline. And then that's when Big Red, Andy Reid, bumped into Travis Kelce and checked him a little bit. So that's why Travis Kelce bumped into Andy Reid in the Super Bowl and kind of checked Andy Reid in the Super Bowl, because that's their relationship. Now, why the optics look so bad is Andy Reid didn't see Travis Kelce coming. He kind of blindsided Andy Reid and hit him in the side, which almost knocked Andy Reid over, which is why it looks so bad. But Andy Reid did the same thing to Travis Kelce. It's just, Andy Reid is, a 65-year-old older man, and Travis Kelce blindsided him. That's where it went wrong. If Andy Reid could see it coming, he would have almost fell over, and that's why it looked so bad on Travis Kelce's behalf, because he blindsided his coach. But he gave him a little chip. I saw the Andy Reid shove on Travis Kelce. Andy Reid shoved Travis Kelce harder than Travis Kelce shoved Andy Reid. But, because they have that relationship, and where they do challenge each other, and where they do challenge each other to elevate their game in these crucial situations, because that's how their relationship works. Well, a lot of people didn't see what happened in that Raiders game. They just saw Travis Kelce nudge his coach. And like I said, Andy Reid nudged Travis Kelce a lot harder than Travis Kelce, nudged Andy Reid. But because he blindsided Andy Reid almost fell over. And that's why everybody was outraged during the Super Bowl, and we're saying, Travis Kelce's a punk. He's not a good guy. But there was more to it than you guys saw. It started with Andy Reid pushing Travis Kelce in that Raiders game. Andy Reid versus Kyle Shanahan. These two have met in 2 Super Bowls, and Andy Reid has gotten the best out of Kyle Shanahan in both games. And it's not surprising to me that these two have met up in 2 Super Bowls, because you look at the way that the NFL has shifted, and really it's become an offensive-based football league, which means if you don't have an innovator on the offensive side of the ball, if you don't have somebody that's really good at tapping into their creativity on the offensive side of the ball, it's hard to win in this current NFL. You know, back in the old days, in the 80s and the 90s, it was all about the great defenses. And it was about having a great defensive coordinator, because if you couldn't score the ball, you couldn't win in the NFL. And these great defenses and these great defensive coordinators just kept the offenses out of the end zone, and that's how you used to win in the NFL. Well, now it's shifted. You have to have a great offense, because the defenses are so good in the NFL that if you don't have a great offense, you can't score. It's the next evolution after those great defenses and those great defense coordinators. Well, the offenses had to counter, and by having a great offensive coordinator, a great offensive mind as a head coach, which the Chiefs have in Andy Reid and Kyle Shanahan, that's how you counter the great defenses of the NFL. So it's not surprising to me that Andy Reid and Kyle Shanahan keep meeting back up in these Super Bowls. And Andy Reid runs a little bit better of a team and runs a little bit tighter of a ship, and that's why we see Andy Reid keep coming back out on top. But Kyle Shanahan is a great offensive innovator himself. We all know how good he's been with the 49ers. That's why the 49ers keep coming out of the NFC side of the bracket. So these two basically have a rivalry, not really a rivalry in the sense that Andy Reid always wins, but just the fact that they always meet up with each other, it has become a little bit of a rivalry, although I really am hesitant to call it a rivalry just because the Chiefs always find a way to win. The next topic we have, and this is a serious question I have to ask with you guys, is Steve Spagnuolo the X factor for the Chiefs? Let's go back to when the Chiefs hired Steve Spagnuolo. Ever since the Chiefs hired Steve Spagnuolo, they've been a different football team. And what I mean by that is they've won 3 Super Bowls since Steve Spagnuolo joined this team. And last night in that game, he had that defense locked in. You know, when the 49ers defense was dominating the Chiefs offense, it was the Chiefs defense that gave that team a fighting chance, because the 49ers were more physical in that first half and the Chiefs offense couldn't get anything going. But luckily, Steve Spagnuolo and the Chiefs defense clamped down the best they could on that 49ers offense. Without that, the Chiefs don't win this game. And obviously the pattern is telling in itself. You bring Steve Spagnuolo to the Chiefs and they win 3 Super Bowls. And to me, how isn't Steve Spagnuolo the X factor for this team? For as good as Andy Reid was, and he was so good during crunch time in that game, without Steve Spagnuolo's defense this whole year, bailing the Chiefs out, you know, when the Chiefs were having identity issues because their wide receivers were so bad, what was the one constant for that team? It was that defense with Steve Spagnuolo. And all year we talked about how good this Chiefs defense was, the best they've ever had, the best that Patrick Mahomes has ever had, because Steve Spagnuolo was doing such a good job of getting his guys to be motivated and getting his guys to execute their assignment. I mean, they've been dialed in and progressively gotten better ever since Steve Spagnuolo joined the Chiefs. And remember, Steve Spagnuolo and Andy Reid worked together with the Eagles. So by reuniting with the Chiefs, that was a great hire by Andy Reid. And it's taken his team to a different level. You know, Steve Spagnuolo, like I said, he's the X factor for this Chiefs team, and it's no coincidence that they've won 3 Super Bowls since he's been there. They've taken that next step since Steve Spagnuolo got hired, and like I said, the defense just keeps getting better and better. This past year, they really showcased what they were able to do under Steve Spagnuolo, playing better than they ever have. And last night in the Super Bowl, when the team needed Steve Spagnuolo and the Chiefs defense the most, he stepped up and rose to the occasion, just like Mecole Hardman did on the offensive side of the ball. And, against a 49ers offense that has Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, who was quiet in that game. Steve Spagnuolo took George Kittle out of that game. We didn't hear George Kittle's name called much at all. So to be able to basically blanket George Kittle and take away one of their big targets in the game, I mean, that's a whole dimension to their offense that they lost. Because George Kittle can eat teams alive when he's on fire. He didn't do anything in that game. Steve Spagnuolo did a great job of taking George Kittle out of the game. And now what happened to the 49ers offense? They had to depend on Deebo Samuel more. They tried to get Brandon Ayuk the ball more, but to the Chiefs defense's credit, those guys really couldn't get it going too much in this game. Then we talk about what actually happened, as the game was unfolding. You look at on the defensive side of the ball for the Chiefs. Early on in the game, the 49ers are dominating the Chiefs offense. So the Chiefs defense has to step up. And what do? They get Christian McCaffrey to fumble the football right away. The 49ers are driving downfield. Patrick Mahomes can't get anything going. If the 49ers score early there, we could be talking about a different outcome in this game, because the 49ers had all the momentum early on in the game because the Chiefs offense couldn't do anything. But the 49ers needed a little bit more out of their own offense. But Steve Spagnuolo and the Chiefs defense wasn't allowing that to happen. And then the 49ers get this drive down the field, and the Chiefs get Christian McCaffrey to cough up the football. It's not easy to get Christian McCaffrey to cough up the football. And Christian McCaffrey fumbles. The Chiefs hop on the football. Huge play early on in this game, because if Christian McCaffrey just starts chipping away at the Chiefs defense, and if the 49ers score, like I said, they're going to have a lot of momentum because their defense was doing so good against Patrick Mahomes. If their offense is firing on all cylinders and their defense is firing on all cylinders, it's going to be a tough team to beat. But the Chiefs defense strips Christian McCaffrey. They were able to jump on the loose football too. Huge play early on in this game. Another player we have to talk about is Trent McDuffie. What a great year Trent McDuffie had. All-world Trent McDuffie plays defense all the way down the field in the end zone on Deebo Samuel. A one-on-one situation that easily could have went Deebo Samuel's way. Trent McDuffie, as a defensive back, as the defender on the play, jumps up, high points the football, and bats it away in the end zone and saves a touchdown for the Chiefs defense, because the 49ers would have scored a touchdown with Deebo Samuel on that play if Trent McDuffie doesn't jump up and make that play. That wasn't all Trent McDuffie did either. He had another pass breakup on Deebo Samuel. Really put together a fine performance in this game. I think he did have a penalty, but it doesn't matter. When you're out there competing, things happen. Overall, I give Trent McDuffie, even with that penalty, an A+ in this game. Saved a touchdown. Had another big pass breakup on Deebo Samuel. Did a good job of taking away Deebo Samuel in the passing game. And, hey, in games that are this close, that go to overtime, that can go either way, those plays are difference makers. So Trent McDuffie, locked in, has a great year, and then backs it up with a great Super Bowl. I grade Trent McDuffie's performance in this Super Bowl an A+. He was incredible. Going into halftime, the Chiefs are down 10-3 at the half, and it's gut check time for this Chiefs team. They did a good job of responding in that second half, but like I said, the 49ers were in control in this first half. They were the more physical team. They were setting the tone with their defensive front. If Steve Spagnuolo doesn't get Christian McCaffrey to cough up that football, it easily could have been 17-3. And then that's a much larger gap to make up, especially against that defense that the 49ers have, because they were tough with all those pass rushers. One huge play that really swung the momentum in the Chiefs' favor was the punt. The muffed punt by the 49ers. Remember, we were all kind of wondering why the 49ers punt returner tried to scoop this football up, and then they showed the replay, and it actually hit one of the other 49ers ankle, and that's why the punt returner tried to pick up the loose football. So it was actually a smart play by the punt returner, although initially we didn't think that. We're like, what the hell is this punt returner doing? It just cost the 49ers the game. What actually had happened is it hit the ankle of another person on the return team, and then the punt returner actually tried to make a smart play by hopping on the loose football. They, couldn't get the punt, and the Chiefs were able to jump on it. That's when the momentum swung in the Chiefs' favor. If that punt doesn't hit the ankle of that guy in the return team, it's a much tougher game for the Chiefs. There's no doubt about that. And what does that lead to? After the Chiefs jump on the muffed punt, I don't know if it was the very next play, the very next drive, we can say, led to a Marquez Valdes-Scantling touchdown. It was like he ran right up the seam. I think it was on the right side of the field, the right seam area, got over top of the defense. Patrick Mahomes hits Marquez Valdes-Scantling in the end zone for a touchdown, and the Chiefs take the lead in the game. Didn't last long. Jauan Jennings answers right back for the 49ers, and this is when the game really starts to shape up, because early on in the game it was a little bit boring. There wasn't a lot of offense for either team. Christian McCaffrey fumbled. Isaiah Pacheco fumbled. Isaiah Pacheco almost fumbled another play on a pitch. Luckily, he was able to jump on the loose football. But after the Marquez Valdes-Scantling touchdown, after the muff punt, Jauan Jennings answers back for the 49ers, and then this is when it's like a heavyweight bout where two heavyweight boxers are exchanging blows, and the excitement in the game picked up in that second half. After a dull second half that was really just the 49ers dominating the game and flat Chiefs team, the muff punt happens, Marquez Valdes-Scantling scores, Jauan Jennings scores, and suddenly, we got a football game that's really starting to shape up. And now as fans, we're kind of sitting on the edge of our seats. The Chiefs come back with a Justin Watson catch. Isaiah Pacheco starts running the ball hard late in the game, fighting with everything he has, not only to make up for that fumble he had earlier in the game, but to give his team a chance to win this game, with the 49ers answering back after the Jauan Jennings touchdown. Travis Kelce makes the catch, gets down near the goal line. We're kind of wondering, I think there's like 9 seconds left in the game. We're kind of wondering what they're going to do. They take a shot to Travis Kelce again. Fred Warner plays some good defense. And another thing we have to highlight late in this game is, Harrison Butker late in the game had 2 clutch field goals late in the game. Without those kicks, the 49ers win the game. So Harrison Butker, and I know they were a little bit closer, but there was a lot of pressure in those situations. And remember, Jake Moody had a kick blocked. So, even though a kick might seem like a gimme, in that clutch of a situation with that much pressure on and with two teams laying out everything they have to win the game, jumping as high as they can to block those kicks with the stadium rattling, and it's easy to shank a kick and pull it to the left or the right. Harrison Butker made 2 clutch kicks late in the game, and he's been great ever since he's been with the Chiefs. He's been a great kicker, and once again, in crunch time, he steps up and delivers 2 clutch kicks in that. I think they were both in that fourth quarter for the Chiefs late in the game, and he sends the game to overtime. In overtime, the 49ers kick the field goal, and then what happens? The Chiefs win it on the touchdown to Mecole Hardman. Great play design. Mecole Hardman leaks out to the right flats, wide open. The defenders get lost. Mecole Hardman's wide open. Nice, easy throw. So easy that the Chiefs were almost like, did that actually count? Did we actually win the Super Bowl on that play? It was almost too easy. You could see them. And then after they realized there's no flags on the play, it counted. Patrick Mahomes runs to the end zone, jumps up, hugs Mecole Hardman, and a great moment for Mecole Hardman and Patrick Mahomes after all Mecole Hardman went through, going to the Jets, then coming back to the Chiefs after things don't work out with the Jets, and then being able to catch the game winner. You could tell Patrick Mahomes was happy for Mecole Hardman in that moment because, Mecole Hardman stepped up and caught the game winner, helped the Chiefs win the Super Bowl. It was almost like a poetic moment for Mecole Hardman, catching the game winner, and after how good of a game he had. Andy Reid's play calling wins the game during crunch time. There's no doubt about that. As much as you can say Steve Spagnuolo is the X factor, which is true, and you could easily make an argument that Steve Spagnuolo and the defense won that game, and I would say it would be valid. But at the same time, Andy Reid's play calling won this game in crunch time because the 49ers were so good in those short down and distance situations that anytime it was 4th and 1, the Chiefs had to punt it. And in overtime, when it got down to those short down and distance situations, and when it was, if you punt the ball, you lose the game because it was overtime and the 49ers were winning, so you couldn't punt the ball. You had to go for it. It was a 4th down situation, and basically Patrick Mahomes faked a handoff to Isaiah Pacheco. He ran it out to the right. Travis Kelce leaked out to the right flat, so if they took away the run to Patrick Mahomes, he could throw it to Travis Kelce, but no one was there to stop Patrick Mahomes on the run. It looked like Nick Bosa followed the Isaiah Pacheco run to the left, so he went right down the line hoping to get to Isaiah Pacheco and win the game, but Patrick Mahomes pulled it almost like his own read. He also had an option to throw to Kelce, but he just took off and ran it. I think he picked up over 20 yards on that play. But with how good the 49ers defense was in those short down and distance situations, there was no gimmies. If you watched that game when it would be like 3rd and 1 and they would just try to run a simple handoff up the middle to Isaiah Pacheco thinking that their offensive line would be able to move the 49ers defensive line back just to pick up 1 yard. That wasn't happening. The 49ers defense was suffocating on the interior. They were swallowing up those runs to the inside on 3rd and 1. And they were forcing punts on 4th and 1. So for Andy Reid to fake to Pacheco and then to have Patrick Mahomes pull it around the right end and run, great execution, great play call by Andy Reid. And it wasn't just that. It was the screen plays in overtime. It was that 4th down play that Patrick Mahomes ran it on. And then the game winner to Mecole Hardman, where Mecole Hardman leaked out wide open in the flats. Just great execution by the Chiefs, and Andy Reid put on a clinic in that Super Bowl, and in particular in that overtime when the 49ers were winning the game and all the pressure was on the Chiefs. Those screen plays were great. Those other plays we talked about were great. And even though the 49ers were winning at the line of scrimmage, it was Andy Reid's creativity that was still able to tilt the odds in the Chiefs' favor. That's not easy to do when the defensive line has physical superiority, because the 49ers were physically superior at the line of scrimmage to the point where if the Chiefs would have ran a simple inside run, Javon Hargrave would have ate it up. Nick Bosa, Chase Young, those guys would have ate it up. They did the whole entire night. So what makes you think that the outcome would have been different in overtime? The 49ers would have kept winning. But Andy Reid goes into his bag of tricks, and he goes into these play calls that they have that he's been saving for these crucial moments in the game. He couldn't use them early on in the game because then you can't use those plays again. And not only that, when you use a play, the second time you try to run it, the defense is more aware of what you're trying to do and they close in on it faster. So the fact that Andy Reid kept these plays in his bag till late in the game when the team really needed it and then busted them out in overtime to tilt the odds in his team's favor against a team that was winning at the line of scrimmage. Andy Reid did such a great job in that game. He earned his money in overtime too. Steve Spagnuolo, great job. Andy Reid, great job. Collectively, the coaching staff of the Chiefs was better than the coaching staff of the 49ers. And that's why they won this game. And I can make a strong case that at least defensively, the 49ers were the better team. I know Steve Spagnuolo and Chiefs defense were great, but from a talent standpoint, I think the 49ers were more talented. I really do, just because you look at that defensive front, they have Randy Gregory coming off the bench. They have Chase Young. They have Nick Bosa. They have Javon Hargrave. They have Eric Armstead. They were so physical on that defensive front. Now, I think Steve Spagnuolo is a better defensive coordinator than Steve Wilks is. So I think even though the 49ers have more talent on their defense, I think Steve Spagnuolo gets more out of his players. And I think Steve Spagnuolo's players execute a little bit better than Steve Wilks' players do. But if we're just looking at talent on both teams and weighing them out, that 49ers team was loaded with talent, which is why they did dominate in that first half. Both teams were fresh out of the gate, and it was the 49ers who dominated. Now, as the game went on and the 49ers got a little bit fatigued, some plays opened up for the Chiefs, but, the defensive coordinator, Steve Wilks, needs to make adjustments to put his team in a position to succeed. And with all that talent, he should have been able to do that easily, because they were so good. There was no time in the pocket for Patrick Mahomes. It should have been a game that the 49ers were able to win, and that's why the 49ers did come so close to winning. But Andy Reid got the help he needed from Steve Spagnuolo, realized that Steve Spagnuolo kept him in the game early. Andy Reid realized himself that he needed to step up now in that second half and in overtime and, give his team something after Steve Spagnuolo gave the team something. And Andy Reid was able to do that in overtime with those clutch play calls. The Travis Kelce catch in overtime when, he fought for the first down and kind of moved the pile with all the 49ers defenders all over him. Those were the plays Andy Reid was dialing up, and that's why he's the best in the business, just a little bit better than Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan's really good, but Andy Reid is at the helm of a dynasty, and Kyle Shanahan just keeps coming up a little bit short to Andy Reid and the Chiefs. That's all I got for this latest episode of the Football Game Tonight podcast. Check us out wherever podcasts are found. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm John Kuzma. I'm signing off.